My name is Rain Parcell, and this is episode 7 of my series, Starving for Acceptance, Why Fashion Keeps Telling Us the Same Body. This is Beauty Standards and the Patriarchy, as part of my senior capstone, with my primary research question being, why does the fashion industry continue to promote damaging beauty ideals despite growing awareness of their harm? So, that is the overarching theme of my video essays. And my goal is to create increased awareness of this harm, create a community to discuss these issues, and to begin to change that ideal. To note, my videos and research are centered in a female and Western perspective, as that's my experience. This isn't a fashion show. It's a statement many girls have heard from a teacher in school. Not wrongly, education is the priority. However, I find that statement very reductionary. This is an eat or be eaten world where your looks are your first impression, and for a woman, that may be the only chance she has. We see girls who fuss over hair and makeup and clothes as shallow, but really I think it's the opposite. Think about girls' toys growing up. Dolls, pretend makeup kits, family houses, often conditioning women to tie feminine identity to a role as a mother or a wife, and not much else. And complying to beauty standards is not just a preference, a cry for attention, a plea for popularity, but rather survival. By fitting into those standards, they reflect power, value, opportunities, and worth. And when you trace modern beauty standards back to its roots, you find things much deeper than just trends. They tie heavily to politics, economics, and civil rights issues. You find capitalism, you find racism, but most of all, you find the patriarchy. Systems built on making others feel inadequate and less than. But to us it's normal because we grow up inside of it. As a girl, you are taught that appearance matters socially and morally because pretty girls are treated better, praised more, perceived as smarter, kinder, more successful, and more deserving. So we are forced to fit that standard. But the thing is, standards change, and if there was one ideal and women were achieving it, then the industries would lose money. So, we continue to change our ideals so it's designed to stay just out of reach. Too thin, too curvy, too pale, too tan, too much makeup, not enough makeup, natural, artificial, just goes back and forth. And one thing I came across repeatedly in my research, women are conditioned to see themselves through others' perspectives and not explore their own. You must monitor yourself constantly, but appearance is the first quality. Intelligent, talented women are reduced to how they look, while male value is much more separated from their appearance. The primary idea is, if we create an issue for women focused on their bodies, they will all be so focused on fixing themselves or comparing themselves to others that they will not be able to team up and fight against the patriarchy, which is why we see beauty standards as much more pushed towards women, especially in much more harmful ways. Now, where did this idea come from? Well, it started while women were still their husband's property, but looking at a more modern lens, one of the clearest historical examples is following World War II. While we sent the men off to war, women took over the jobs here. But now, with the men back, they needed women out of their workforce and back to the homes. So, in order to reinforce traditional domestic feminine roles, they targeted their bodies and clothing. The 1950s is the time of the housewife, with such a distinct silhouette and shape to the body. It's iconic, but ultimately a tool of the patriarchy. Think bullet bras and girdles, a cinched waist with a flaring out poodle skirt. Creates an hourglass body structure unnaturally in order to make women appear thinner. Women were made to see their success as wives and mothers as dependent on their cleanliness, beauty, and obedience, using fashion as a tool to make them submissive and domestic. These ideas were pushed through ads, things like lose weight to keep your husband interested, wear makeup at all times, dress up nice, don't eat too much, stay slim, Weight Watcher plans. The ideal woman was not just clean, but rather controlled in behavior, appearance, and ambition. So, through constant exposure to these ideals from advertisements, fashion, movies, social media, and celebrities, these messages don't change, but become reinforced and carried throughout time. Social media is just the evolution of magazines, however, intensified to an extreme, repeating the same message constantly until you police yourself on these standards. It is also important to recognize how closely beauty standards are connected to discipline and control, especially thinness. Your weight is tied to morality, with skinny being seen as self-control, discipline, worthiness, and success, while fatness is failure, laziness, or lack of control. That moralization starts young, with kids learning to fear weight gain before they even understand nutrition. Teenagers learn how to fix themselves before they fully develop, and children are made aware of problem areas. Companies capitalize on those insecurities immediately. Think about how much skincare and makeup is marketed towards children, with bright, flashy colors and the normalization of Sephora kids. Everything is marketable once insecurity exists, which makes beauty culture and capitalism deeply connected. The industry depends on women never feeling complete. Not that these things are bad, but it's the enforcement and normalization of these processes that is unhealthy. For example, I've worn makeup every day since I was 12. It started for fun, and it still is, but I feel like I have to wear it all of the time. And that's, not chill. And the issue is not participating in beauty culture, but rather the society where your worth is based on your appearance. No beauty standards are experienced equally either. They are inherently racist, classist, ageist, and misogynistic in every way. Modern beauty standards favor Eurocentric features with light skin, small noses, and straight hair. Women over 30 are pushed towards anti-aging products, and often a lot of marketed solutions are expensive and not affordable for everyday people. And women's bodies are policed much more than male bodies. And even when our standards seem more inclusive, it is often conditional. Think about the body positivity movement, and think about how the early 2000s prioritized a very frail, thin figure. Well, now, curvy bodies are more accepted, but only when paired with a flat stomach, tiny waist, and other conventionally attractive features. The standard shifts while still being restrictive, because the goal is not freedom from these ideals. It is an aspiration to drive consumption. Women learn to experience their bodies from the outside rather than the inside. And that shift affects mental health deeply, pushing eating disorders, body dysmorphia, obsessive comparison, anxiety, and depression. These are direct consequences of living in oppressive systems that constantly teach people their worth depends on their appearance. Despite how harmful these standards are, women are often blamed individually for participating in them. But it's important to remember that beauty standards are tied to survival in many ways. Pretty privilege is a reality. And it's important to question these systems. The ones that teach women to spend their entire lives trying to fix themselves, the systems that benefit from women hating themselves, and why femininity is so tied to suffering and discipline. My goal with this video was to explore how harmful body standards are deeply connected to patriarchal systems and how those ideas have been reinforced, focusing on housewife culture and advertising. So, if the ideas and content I shared resonated with you, please continue following the series, watch my other videos, and feel free to contact me through email or Instagram. Thank you so much for watching and giving your time to me.